I never expected to be the forgotten one. Not in this family. Not after everything. My name is Kwame, and the day I truly died wasn't the day the doctors gave me the diagnosis. It was the day I realized my parents had already buried me emotionally under white lace and golden wedding invitations. It started for months before my sister's wedding. I was studying in Accra, grinding my way through final year exams when I started experiencing strange fatigue. At first, I blamed it on stress, school, internship, life. But then came the fevers, the fainting spells, the blood in my cough. I went to Coral Boo Teaching Hospital. Tests were run. My diagnosis was clear. You have a rare degenerative condition. We need to operate soon, very soon, or you may not survive. The words fell on me like broken glass. I called my father that evening. He didn't pick up. I texted my mother. She responded, Kwame, not now, ooh. We're picking fabrics for the wedding this week. I'll call you later. I waited. That later never came. At first, I convinced myself it was temporary, that they were just caught up in preparations. My sister Ajoa was marrying the son of a wealthy politician. It was all anyone in the family could talk about. So, I waited another week. The pain got worse. I collapsed in my hostel one night. My roommate rushed me back to the hospital. The doctor said my lungs were worsening, so surgery needed to happen within 2 weeks, or the damage would be irreversible. This time, I didn't text. I took a bus and came home. When I arrived at the village, the air was thick with celebration. Decorations were already being hung on trees. Aunties and uncles bustled around like bees. My sister saw me and screamed with joy. Kwame, you came. For my wedding, I smiled weakly. I needed to talk to Mama and Papa. My father was in the backyard, sitting under the mango tree with guests. He looked surprised to see me. He didn't ask why I was home early. He didn't notice I was thin, my face pale, my voice shaking. He just said, Ajoa is so happy you're here. That means a lot to her. What about me? I wanted to ask, but I didn't. Not yet. That night, I sat with my mother in the kitchen, trying to tell her about the surgery. She didn't let me finish. Kwame, this wedding is the biggest thing to ever happen to our family. Ministers will attend. The whole town will speak of it. Just hold on a bit, eh? We'll deal with your issue after the wedding. My issue? I thought. You mean my dying. Each day that followed was a blur of drums, dance rehearsals, and laughter. And each night, coughed up more blood. One evening, I walked behind the house, alone, tears choking me. I dropped to my knees by the shrine stone our grandmother used to pray at. That's when I heard it. A whisper. You were not the first. I turned quickly. There was no one, only the shadows behind the trees. The moon hung like an eye, watching me. I returned to my small room in the back of the compound. I couldn't sleep. The walls seemed to breathe. The air felt thick. I kept hearing footsteps outside, but every time I checked, no one was there. My body was dying. But something else, something darker was awakening. One night, I awoke, gasping. A shadow stood in the corner of the room. Tall, still, unmoving. I tried to scream, but my voice was gone. The figure stepped forward. A girl, her face pale, eyes hollow, skin cracked like dried earth. She whispered again. They chose her. Like they once chose her. ... And then she vanished. I told my mother about the dream the next morning. She looked at me and hissed, "Stop talking nonsense. Don't bring bad spirits into this house during wedding week." That was when I realized I was completely alone. They had chosen a wedding over my life, over their son, and something in this house, something in this village, was watching, waiting, and whispering truths they refused to hear. The sun rose too quickly the next day, casting long golden rays across the village false warmth for the coldness I felt inside. The compound buzzed with excitement. Tailors darted in and out. Drummers tested their instruments under the mango tree. Neighbors came bearing gifts wrapped in bright fabrics. Laughter filled every room except mine. No one asked how I was feeling. Not my father, not my mother, not even Ajoa. I had become invisible in my own family. A fading shadow while the spotlight shone on lace gowns, henna, and photo shoots. But I wasn't the only shadow. That morning, the whispers returned. This time, they came not from dreams, but from walls. As I sat on my bed, a slow creak echoed from the ceiling boards. I looked up. The wooden planks seemed to sway, as though something heavy crawled above. Then dash, tap, 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 3 knocks on my door. I opened it. No one was there. But at my feet lay a small object, a cracked pendant half buried in dust. On the back, an inscription barely legible. She was promised and forgotten. I didn't recognize the item. I felt drawn to it, like it belonged to someone. Someone who still lingered. Later that day, my cousin Essie found me in the backyard. She was one of the few people in the family who still saw me. "You don't look good, Kwame," she said, frowning. "You're thinner than last week." I nodded slowly. "They don't care, Essie. I told them I'm sick, that I need surgery. They think I'm trying to ruin the wedding." She bit her lip, then leaned in. "There's something else." Something strange. A girl she's been seeing near the shrine at night. Some say it's a Joa sleepwalking. Others think it's a spirit. I froze. A girl near the shrine, just like I'd seen. "Essie," I whispered, "what if this wedding is cursed?" She scoffed. "Cursed? Why?" I told her about the dream, the girl, the voice. The pendant.esi went pale. "There's a story Nana never told you," she said, "about a bride who died in this village. Her name was Ama Surwa. She was promised marriage to a wealthy chief, but on the wedding night, he chose her sister instead. She killed herself at the shrine." That night, I couldn't sleep. I held the pendant in my hand and whispered, "Ama Surwa. Is that you?" Suddenly, a cold wind burst through my window. Candles went out. My door creaked open slowly on its own, and then a figure entered. It was her, the girl from the dream, but this time her eyes glowed faintly blue. She hovered, barely touching the ground. "You are not alone," she whispered. "I was once forgotten too. I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink." She raised her hand and pointed toward the main house. They chose beauty over truth. Now the price must be paid. The next day, strange things began happening. The wedding cake delivered from Accra arrived spoiled. Crawling with maggots, the seamstress known for her pristine work called to say all the gowns had mysteriously torn overnight. And she woke up screaming, claiming someone had tried to choke her in her sleep. No one believed her. They said it was wedding nerves. But I knew better. Ama Surwa was back, and she was angry. I tried to warn my mother. She slapped my arm and shouted, "You've always been jealous of Ajo. That's why you're saying these evil things." "Jealous? I'm dying," I shouted back. My father heard. He entered the room slowly, eyes stern. "If this wedding fails, Kwame, you will leave this house. Do you understand me?" That night, I slept outside near the shrine. The air was heavy. The trees whispered. I wept. And then I felt a cold hand touch my shoulder. "Come," she said, "let me show you the truth." She took me into the forest behind the compound. There, buried under twisted roots and dark soil, was an old box. Inside were wedding photos, black and white, faded. The faces of people long gone. In the center was Amma Serwa's image, and beside her, my grandfather. Essie was right. Amma had been betrayed by her sister and by our bloodline. And now she had returned, not just to curse a wedding, but to settle a generational debt. I woke up in a daze the next morning, my hands covered in red clay from the shrine soil, and the old photo of Amma Serwa clutched to my chest. The memories of her cold voice echoed in my ears. They chose beauty over truth. The price must be paid. The village was already buzzing again with wedding preparations. No one knew I had spent the night communing with the dead. But I noticed something strange. Ajoa didn't look like herself. Her once vibrant eyes were dull, her steps stiff. When she spoke, her voice sounded off, deeper, hollow. Even Essie noticed. "She's not acting right," she whispered. "She asked for yam porridge this morning. She hates yam." Later, Ajoa laughed during a conversation with the florist. The sound sent chills through my spine. It was a laugh I had heard before in my dream when Amma Serwa first appeared. No one else seemed to notice. They were too busy folding napkins and arguing over DJ choices. That night, the power went out. A total blackout. We lit lanterns and the compound fell into uneasy quiet. I saw Ajo standing in front of the mirror in the hallway. But her reflection didn't move. She was brushing her hair slowly, but the image in the mirror stared directly at me. I blinked. The reflection smiled wide and unnatural. I backed away. "You feel it too?" a voice whispered behind me. It was Essie. "She's possessed," she said, her face pale. "By Ame?" Things got worse quickly. The family goat was found mutilated near the shrine. One of the bridesmaids tripped and broke her ankle, claiming someone pushed her when no one was there. Ajoa began talking in her sleep, chanting in Twi dialects none of us recognized. Nana called it the tongue of the forgotten. My mother refused to believe it. She stressed, "Weddings are stressful." But I had seen enough. I had to do something. I returned to the shrine. With Essie, we brought sage, sea salt, and the pendant. Nana's old Bible too, just in case. We called out to Amma Serwa. She came, rising from the shadows like smoke. Her eyes glowed beneath her veil. Her hands curled into fists. "You let it happen." Again, she hissed. "You abandoned the one who was weak." Again, I stepped forward. "I didn't abandon you," I whispered. "I'm not them." I was left to. She stopped. For the first time, her eyes softened. "You still have time," she said. "But if the wedding continues, I will take what is mine." The next day, the family gathered for the traditional engagement. Ajoa walked in, dressed in kente and gold, looking like a royal bride, but her eyes were black. Pitch black. Everyone clapped and cheered as the groom's family arrived. They didn't see what I saw, but Essie did. And then, as the priest began his blessings, Ajo began to levitate. Screams erupted. Chairs flew back. The priest dropped his staff and ran. My parents collapsed in shock. I stepped forward, holding the pendant out like a shield. "Amma Serwa," I shouted. "This is not your justice. This is vengeance." The wind roared. The sky darkened. Ajoa floated higher, then crashed to the ground with a sickening thud. Silence, and then she began to laugh. The same haunting, bone-chilling laugh that echoed through my nightmares. She wasn't Ajoa anymore. She was Amma, and she had returned not just to ruin a wedding, but to claim her place, her throne, her revenge. The compound descended into chaos. Screaming guests scattered, stumbling over overturned chairs, breaking calabashes and gold trays as they ran. Dust rose from the ground, mixing with the scent of incense and sweat. The sky turned an unnatural gray, swirling with wind, even though the trees remained still. At the center of it all was Ajoano. Amasur was sitting upright like a statue, her eyes completely black. Her voice humming an ancient melody none of us could place. Her golden wedding beads had snapped, scattered like bones around her dot. Isa grabbed my hand. "It's not just a possession anymore," she whispered. "Ama has taken full control." My parents sat in shock. My mother trembled, her head in her hands. My father mumbled incoherently. For the first time, I saw regret in their eyes, but it was too late. The choice had already been made. They had traded my life for a wedding that would now never happen. I knelt beside my sister's body and whispered softly, "Ajoa, if you're still in there." "I'm sorry." Her head snapped toward me. A twisted smile stretched her lips. "She's deeper than you can reach," Ama said through her mouth. "But the bloodline remembers." I needed help. That night, I went to Nana Efua, the village's oldest priestess. She lived on the edge of the forest, in a hut woven with palm fronds and cowrie shells. She hadn't stepped outside in years. When I explained what happened, she closed her eyes and nodded. "Ama was never buried properly," she said. "They silenced her. Now her pain has made her powerful." I begged her for a way to free Ajoa. She gave me 3 things: a calabash bowl with river water, a strip of ancestral cloth that belonged to Ama, and a black feather soaked in red dye. She instructed, "You must bring her to the sacred pond. At midnight, there, the ancestors will judge." But there was one rule. You mustn't look at her reflection in the water. Midnight came. Essie and I carried Ajo still possessed, still humming wrapped in white cloth to the sacred pond deep in the forest. The frogs went silent as we arrived. Even the wind held its breath. We set the items in a circle around the pond. Nana's instructions echoed in my mind. Pour the river water on the cloth, dip the feather, and speak the name of the forgotten Amasurwa of the second moon, child of the storm, daughter of justice. The water rippled. The trees groaned. The reflection in the pond shimmered, and I saw it. Not Ajo but Ama in her wedding dress, face veiled in black, staring back at me. The temptation to look, to really look, overwhelmed me. But Essie screamed, "Don't look at her." I shut my eyes. Ajoa began convulsing. Her voice shrieked in 2 tones, hers and Ama's clashing like swords. Then silence. I opened my eyes. The reflection was gone. Ajoa lay still, eyes closed, peaceful. But before we could rejoice, a hand rose from the pond. Ama, fully formed, pale and sad. She stepped onto the land, soaked, shivering, her veil still over her face. "I only wanted to be remembered," she said. I stepped toward her and bowed my head. "We remember you now, and we will tell your story." She looked up, then smiled. Truly smiled for the first time. Then she vanished into the trees, back in the compound. Ajoa awoke with no memory of the past 3 days. The wedding was canceled. No one blamed me anymore. No one asked why I wasn't taken to surgery. In fact, they barely spoke at all. But I had changed, so had Ajoa. She didn't wear bright colors anymore. She prayed more often, and sometimes, just sometimes, I caught her humming Ama's melody under her breath, as though a piece of still lived in her, or maybe in me. It's been 6 months since that night at the sacred pond. Ajoa walks, laughs, and even sings again, but she's not the same. None of us are. The village whispers when they see us. They say we tampered with ancient spirits, and we brought back something we were never meant to touch. Even the trees along the path to the sacred pond grow thicker, twisted like they're guarding something or hiding it. At first, life returned to normal. My father reopened his shop. My mother became active in the Women's Council again. They hosted guests as if nothing ever happened. But beneath their smiles, guilt swam like oil in water. They avoided eye contact with me, and at night I would hear my mother weeping softly in her room. They never mentioned the surgery again. They never said sorry. They didn't have to. The silence between us said enough. Then came the dreams, in the first. I was back at the pond. Amma stood in the water, veil off, face glowing but her eyes. Her eyes were empty. "You remembered me," she whispered, "but they still don't speak of me." In the next dream, she reached out with cold hands, holding my face. Stories live, only when told. I woke up sweating. The same dream came again the next night, and the next until one morning. I found something strange at the doorstep. A wedding veil, wet and muddy. My parents denied putting it there. Ajo said nothing. Esihu had moved to another village. Wrote to me, "Sometimes I hear the song." In my sleep, it became clear. Amma was not done. She had accepted remembrance. She demanded truth. So I did the one thing no one in the family dared. I went public. I spoke at the town gathering. During the ancestral festival, I told them everything. My parents left me to die for a wedding that never happened. But Amma Surwa, a woman shunned by her people, saved us all. She is part of our bloodline. And she is not a ghost to be feared, but a legacy to be honored. There was silence. Then, a woman in the back began to clap. Slowly, others joined. Some wept. My father couldn't look me in the eye. My mother left early, but the story had been told. That night, Ma appeared for the last time in my room. By the window, she stood there in full traditional dress, not soaked, not sorrowful, radiant. "You kept your word," she said. "Now I can rest." She leaned forward and kissed my forehead. The air turned warm. The candle beside me flickered but didn't go out. And just like that, she vanished. Today, I'm alive. A miracle. Maybe, or perhaps Amma left something inside me, a strength I never knew I had. Ajoa now travels across Ghana, telling women's stories, especially those forgotten by time and me. I run a small center for village children, abandoned or left behind children. Like me, we call it Surwa House. There's a mural on the wall. It shows a woman with long braids standing by a pond, smiling. Most people think it's symbolic, but those of us who remember know her name. Amma Surwa. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment "end" so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Till to the next one. Stay happy. Goodbye.